We have all no doubt heard it many times. Stretch your muscles. And we have likely been told of its importance. But did you ever stop and think that this applies to your horse too? Your horse is an athlete, and just like human athletes, our musculoskeletal systems require some attention to help them to remain as healthy as possible. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate some dynamic active mobilization stretches, also known as carrot stretches or beta stretches, which you can perform with your own horse. These are something I use daily post-exercise with my own horses, and I have done for many years, and with all of the horses I work with as an equine sports therapist and soon to be animal chiropractor. Prevention is better than cure. These days we do not think enough about injury prevention. By ensuring a correct and slow warm-up and cool-down with the addition of some simple stretches to your daily regime, we can increase range of motion and flexibility in the horse, which will enable it to perform more fluidly and to the best of its ability. Stretching can help to prevent injury by strengthening and suppling the soft tissues within the body. Stretching can also improve flexibility and range of motion, as well as helping to guard against muscle tightness and tendon shortening. Stretching is also extremely useful to reduce post-exercise pain, soreness, stiffness and muscle fatigue, and can also help to greatly improve the disposition of the horse. A pain-free horse is a happier horse. Stretching can also be useful to provide early warning signs of a potential injury or problem area within the body, as well as being a useful tool in injury rehabilitation. A couple of points before we get started. Please ask your vet's advice if you are concerned if these stretches are appropriate for your horse. For example, the frequency and type of stretches that are appropriate for a horse recovering from injury can vary greatly. Do not assume that a stretch that was appropriate for a horse with a similar injury to your horse's injury will be appropriate for your horse. All stretches should be performed on warm muscles. Stretching cold muscles can cause tears, strains, and other injuries or issues. It is possible to do these stretches before riding your horse, but your horse should have walked for at least 5 or 10 minutes to allow them to warm up. In the beginning, don't be disheartened if you or your horse are struggling with these exercises. The horse needs to be trained correctly to be able to stretch effectively. It can take several weeks or even months to really start to see and feel the benefits within the horse's body. This will vary greatly depending on the age of the horse and also its ability and conformation. On a final point, look out for your horse cheating. Proper stretching form is critical for your horse to gain maximum benefit from the stretch. Proper form and less stretch is better than poor form and more stretch. Most horses are a lot smarter than you think when it comes to finding ways to cheat the stretch. I will explain this more as we progress through the video. If you have a horse that is likely to bite, you can protect your fingers and hands by passing a carrot through a plastic lid, like that from the top of a coffee cup. As you can see, I'm using much smaller treats as the horses in this video are not prone to being nippy or trying to bite. So first of all, I'm going to demonstrate the stretching routine with my horse Boo, who's very experienced with this particular stretching routine. So you'll notice I have her standing beside a wall. I recommend at the beginning doing this in a stable so the horse has a wall behind and to the side to help them to understand not to move. Notice how she's standing almost square. It doesn't have to be completely square. And she's weight bearing on all her legs. I mentioned earlier about the horse cheating. If they're lifting one leg, they're evading the stretch, so try to always make sure they're weight bearing on all 4 legs. With regards to the positions, you'll see that I ask her to come to a variety of positions, high, low. I start at her elbow and work my way back towards her point of hip. Point of hip is end range of motion usually for most horses. You can get pretty inventive with your positions as long as you keep in mind that the horse is weight bearing on all 4 legs and not twisting through the neck and the pole. A good marker for that is to check that the horse's ears are pointing up or to the side slightly. You never want their ears to point down towards the floor, as this is an evasion and not a true stretch. You can see with Boo, I'm able to just hold the treat in my hand with my hand closed, and she will hold the position until I release the treat. I then switch sides. You'll see again I start at the elbow, we go back to a central position, back to the rib cage, holding for 3 to 5 seconds each time. Again, she goes back to center. Now I'm coming into a lower position. Notice how her ears are pointing slightly to the side, not towards the ground, so she's stretching correctly. Now I'm coming back a little bit higher and back towards the hip. You really want to aim to try and get the horse to hold each stretch for at least 3 to 5 seconds. After I've done one side, I then do one treat from chin to chest. You'll see Boo keeps her neck very straight. I then also guide her down between her front fetlocks, making sure she keeps her legs straight, and then drawing her up towards her sternum. So this next horse, she's called Wendy. She's not my horse and she's never stretched before. She is, I believe, 14 or 15 years old. And this is her first time ever performing carrot stretches. So at this stage, it's more about training. She was actually a very good student. She didn't try and move around, and she was weight bearing on all 4 legs. But she was incredibly stiff. She couldn't reach past her rib cage. So she's a horse that would definitely benefit from daily stretching. So you'll see I'm just trying to encourage her to hold the position. Trying to ask her to come a little bit lower now. She does quite nicely. You'll see this is difficult for her. I always make sure that I bring my hand to the horse's nose and guide the horse back. I never hold my hand out and expect the horse to come to me. I must guide the horse back to the position I want. And you never want the horse to snatch. It must be a smooth movement. You never want them to be trying to snatch and grab, because they're not stretching then, they're just grabbing the treat. So here I'm going to try and get her to go chin to chest, which was actually very difficult for her. She even was not massively interested in the treats. You see, I'm just trying to persist, just trying to get her into the right position, just keeping her neck straight, but it's not possible for this mare to touch her sternum today. It would take maybe several weeks before she would be able to perform like Boo, or maybe longer. She actually really struggled with this next part. If it was my own horse, I would have spent a lot of time trying to get her to lower her head. You can see I'm using some pressure on the lead rope and trying to show her the treat to try and encourage her to stretch down. But she really doesn't want to release her back. This mare's quite tight through her back anyway. But there, she's starting to stretch nicely. But again, it's not an easy exercise for her. With Boo, you know, she knows the routine so well. It's quite a quick process. You guys can expect to spend a little bit more time in the beginning until your horse understands what you want. See, again, I'm just trying to encourage her to lower her head and neck, which she doesn't really want to do. She also eats from a hay net at quite a high position, which I have advised the owner to change because the mare is really tight through the top line. Okay, so now I've come to the other side and I'm trying to encourage Wendy now to stretch around to the right. This side is actually a lot stiffer for her. On the other side, she was able to come back to kind of her mid-rib cage. On this side, she can barely flex around to her elbow. But you'll see, I'm not trying to force her to go further than she can, just to what she can manage. You must be mindful and pay attention to your horse's body language. You can see she's struggling here. On the other side, she was able to stretch around to her ribs. On this side, I can obviously see that she's much more restricted. So I'm just encouraging her to try and come around again. She's not massively interested in the treats that I had either. Maybe if I'd have had some carrot or apple, she would have been a little bit more keen. This would be a mare that I would definitely stretch before and after riding. After every exercise session. I would imagine within 4 to 6 weeks, we would see a real difference in her flexibility. Most horses will try and just keep their head bent around to the side, but this can actually overstretch the horse. So it's better if you insist the horse returns to a central position each time before the next stretch. I always do the stretches towards the front of the horse from both sides, as some horses tend to slightly tilt the pole away from you. And again, come down to do the chin to chest stretch, which she was a little bit better that time. She's starting to understand. Again, on this side, asking her to lower her head was something that she found a little bit difficult. I think it's partially a training thing as well as coming from the restriction and tightness in her body. If you guys are struggling, these stretches are best done in the stable. Some horses will move around in the beginning, especially if they're tight and a little bit confused about what you want, but be patient. I have never met a horse that cannot learn to do this. So that was it. Please leave any questions in the comments and I will answer them. Thank you for watching.